Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another testimony. And we're hearing a testimony from the Ascent program by Seiji. And hi, Seiji. How are you going?
Good. Hello. Hello, hello.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing your experience and your testimonial. And I wanted to start off by just asking what brought you to High Noon and what inspired you to join High Noon and Ascent?
Yeah, so I mean, okay, ever since high school, I've always wanted to overcome my porn habit. Always. I think it's always something I felt really not good about. Um, and there was one like a high school workshop. I don't know if Heinun was involved. I don't think Heinun was involved, but it was just the initiative of the staff to talk about sex and talk about porn, talk about sexual integrity. And it was a really good workshop. And it was probably a workshop that had like the most influential brothers' night that I've had. Just openly talking about it, but not like shaming anyone, but to allow like free expression and just how we feel about it. So it's very good. Um, I remember very specifically that after that workshop was a shift in perspective, actually not from me, but from a friend of mine, a very close brother in the same community of mine. And yeah, he opened up about his porn habits, and it was something that had held so with so much shame, and it was like the thing that he never ever thought he would ever share with anybody ever. I mean, we know how that is, but the that the fear and the shame that he felt around this topic, he opened up about it to me. After this workshop, after the brothers' night, after everything, I'm like, dude, me too. Like I want to overcome this too. So that was like what primed me. As I've always wanted to overcome this porn habit. Um, and so after my first year of GPA, so at the end of my first year, High Noon sent some people to give their testimonies, and we got some talks, and they introduced just about High Noon, about like I think with the programs, and I don't know if I didn't sign up for any programs initially, um, but like it was something that was like, oh, this is so good, I feel really good about this. Um, I don't remember if there were any like sign up for programs. I remember there was like a mentorship program, but that was on the initiative of GPA, not High Noon. Yeah, this was 2019. So yeah, that summer though, that same brother who I talked about earlier actually had joined a group, and I don't know how he found it, but he was part of Uncle Dave's group. And in the middle of the quarter or summer program, I forgot what it was, but uh, yeah, he said, "Do you want to join I'm in a brothers group, and we talk about like and improve sexual integrity." I go, "Oh wow, okay, cool." And that was how I first met Uncle Dave. They just took me in. It was halfway through the quarter. Um, yeah, so definitely not how it works now. It's very very organized now, but yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, it's just something that I think Uncle Dave was just so like, yeah, come on, like we'd love to have you. So yeah, that was my first experience with in a Sun group, and I have to say, the first group wasn't life changing, um, but it helped me so much, because the opportunity to just talk honestly about my struggles. That's something I never really had growing up so much. Um, and it was great preparation for me to go into my second year of GPA as a team leader. And I would have to send and share my honest reporting and my, like how my team is doing, but really specifically how I'm doing. That was very important, to my commander and to whoever I was reporting to. And it helped me be just really honest, to learn how to be more and more honest. And it was really good. So anyway, that was my first experience in Ascent. This is what, yeah.
So this is how you first got exposed and inspired to join, and I guess then you joined other groups, kind of following that. How were your like initial experiences joining groups
Mhm.
and yeah.
Yeah. So being on GPA was pretty hard. to join any groups just because of the schedule. It was very busy, fundraising all the time. But yeah, um, on my second year GPA, I didn't join any groups. And actually, so after I graduated, after my second year, um, yeah, I was at crossroads, and I didn't know what to do if I wanted to do another year of GPA or go and move on. And ended up deciding to graduate GPA and go to CARP, Las Vegas. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but actually, yeah, I hadn't joined a group for a while, and it was really hard, actually. And I didn't realize how hard it was, but I was at a pretty low state because at that time I didn't take full ownership of the choice that I made to go, to graduate. I felt a lot of FOMO. Felt like I was really missing out on all these experiences that my fellow captains and third years, the people who decided to do another year GPA for my year, were like, it felt like they were experiencing so much, and here I was just struggling, just trying to figure out my life. um, as everyone does, but it felt like I was missing out on a lot of things and afraid if I made the wrong decision. And because I was stuck in that, I started gradually getting like deeper and deeper in my own shame. My porn habit became worse and worse. Um, and yeah, after a semester, um, I I just I didn't really think about High Noon or joining Ascend or any of the programs. And that's why I think like following up is so important, because what changed that was Uncle Dave. He reached out to me, asked me how I was doing. Now he's like two sides, right? I don't, yeah, but for the, people who is like Uncle Dave, he's, the businessman, but he's also the High Noon man, so like he was reaching out to some second gen, and it's like, hey, do you want, some youth guy saying, if he wants to, join the, if he wanted me to join the his crab company, crab business, to pitch crab. But he also always asks, how's your sexual integrity going? How's it going? And then that opened up the gateway for me to share that I had been really struggling, and it had been very hard recently. And again, I think it was just, hey, we have group calls now. If you want to join, like, we'd be happy to welcome you. So yeah, I never signed up for my first two groups, but that was the experience that I think really shaped me, and that was really great, is to the opportunity to share, and like being asked how my sexual integrity is. Yeah, it's always a hard question, but it's definitely something that ropes you in, I think. So my initial experiences were really good, I think, because I felt really cared for.
This initial experience of somebody really reaching out to you and inviting you, and you had like a really cared for, experience joining. How was it then in the beginning, like being part of a group, and what kind of challenges did you have to face perhaps when
Oh,
you had just started, being part of group calls? Yeah.
so many challenges. Okay, well, not that many, but I think the biggest thing was learning to be honest, and sharing about my shame. I mean, it's definitely hard. My whole life I've been hiding, my porn habit, the the way I just escape, or like just feeling like crap. So yeah, each call I was like, I don't know, I don't know if I'm gonna share how many times I slipped this week, or you know. um, so definitely learning how to be honest and to expose the shame was very hard. Also, I think week by week, especially those first calls, it just felt like, every time I had to slip, it's like, I'm gonna have to report this, or oh my God, like I just feel like a more crappy person, and um, and it felt like I wasn't growing at all. Um, and that was probably the hardest part, especially with the first few programs, first groups that I've been a part of. So yeah, those were definitely growing pains, because I think, like, yeah, the more I practiced that, the easier it did become, and the more honest I had to be with myself, you know. Like, I don't think I was really being honest with myself. And that's why it felt like every time I shared, it just felt like so bad. Because I just, yeah, I just, oh, it's happening again, it's happening again, it's happening again. I was more aware of the things I was already doing, you know. And it's not like it was getting worse. I was just more aware of what was happening. Um, and initially it was really hard because it just felt like I was a bad person or like I was a weak person. I think it was I think more accurate. I felt weak. I felt like I couldn't do it. Yeah. And then just being honest in the group was, yeah. I mean, sometimes I would say it was a hard week. And that's all I would say. I wouldn't share that I had slipped up or, like this many times, or yeah, I would just say it was a hard week. Um, but yeah, I definitely had to fight my comfort zone, step out of it little by little. And it was yeah, it's a hard experience.
Following up on that is just how did you experience any turning points while you were in the group? These were the challenges you were faced with, and what were turning points for you? And yeah, by continuing being part of the program, how do you think being in Ascend or whatever those groups were called, like in the beginning, right? How did that help you grow and heal and overcome your shadows?
And it was all about practice, like I said, with the honesty. I think yeah, the staff know what they're doing, just practicing these five virtues, right? So at the time, the five virtues weren't so clear, but I think, yeah, once they became clear, it's really good. But the turning point for me, I don't think there has been like a specific turning point. I think, it wasn't just like like a 180 for me. I think it was definitely like a U-turn or some kind of roundabout, um, that maybe I felt like I went around several times before I actually got out of the exit. Um, like very gradually, little by little, I think I just felt more and more able to share honestly, to be more vulnerable. Um, yeah, there's no like epiphany, and then it's like, this is it. This is what I gotta do, and then just like stop. Like, I mean, I felt like that sometimes, but anytime I would ignore like the feelings of loneliness or insecurities or fears that I had, I would go straight back to porn, or straight back to mess. So like I'm straight back to my bad habit, and it would be like, oh, now I'm starting all over. It's like that's not it, like I'm just circling at the roundabout. I'm not going straight down the wrong path anymore. That's what it felt like. um and at times it felt like I was learning the same lessons over and over again. I felt like, oh, I had another slip up, what can I learn from this? That's the same thing. I feel like I just need to try again, try harder. And I think that's what was the most important thing for me, is that I didn't give up. I haven't felt like I wanted to just be like, oh, this doesn't work. But I think, like, I mean, all my life I've done something that doesn't work. For me to, like run away from my emotions through, either Instagram or eventually PMO every time, or, just, yeah, I mean, that didn't work, like, so of course, like trying something new would be the next best thing. And yeah, I mean, I always felt like, yeah. Anyway, there's no turning point. It was just like a constant effort, constant keep going back. And yeah, I think that's what led me to feel more and more comfortable, more and more courageous to share the shadows that I have or the mistakes that I have, and to more and more recognize that, this isn't who I truly am. This isn't who I want to be. And to recognize that God's love isn't something that stops from God, but it's something that I really have to learn to open up to. And yeah, it happened little by little. I had to realize that, and I need to be reminded of that. Even this past week I was really filled with insecurity, and yeah, I had to, reach out to my accountability partner and just say, like, I'm going back to Instagram more and more. Like, something's wrong. And then the more we talked, the clearer it became. Like, I'm feeling really insecure about my relationships right now. that's and then we talked about it. And then I talked to the people in my relationships that I'm feeling insecure in. And I realized like this is where I'm lacking. And then yeah, now I feel really good, you know. And it's just like the habits, that change, right? To actually confront the problem and to recognize it, to see the truth of it. Yeah, that's what I'm learning how to do.
It's great. Yeah, thank you. It definitely sounds like you have gained, like over the month and years that you've been working on yourself,
Yeah.
that you've gained like this awareness of the underlying things happening inside of you, right? Underlying emotions and patterns that cause uh, problems with sexual integrity, right? And kind of this thought of, oh, porn is just a symptom. And so I wanted to ask, what have you discovered about yourself? Like what are the underlying reasons for you to, uh, that drove you, you know, to porn or masturbation? What have you discovered about deeper reasons for that?
Yeah, that's a big question. Actually, I still struggle to completely answer that because I think there's a lot of aspects to it, you know. Um, but like the whole ritual thing, like the thing that like makes me feel a certain way, to makes me want to escape, and that escape leads me to one place, to next to and then the cycle and then the habits. So like the underlying thing, I mean, it's just the fear and insecurity that that I have. And it usually is around the case dealing with love. Like, am I worthy to be loved? I think that was a huge insecurity. And I feel like, I'm always trying to be good enough to be, someone who can be deserving of love. And anytime it feels like, what I'm doing isn't enough to get love, maybe someone acts a certain way, and I take it really personally. And it becomes really scary, like, oh, did I lose this source of life? Did I do something wrong for them to stop loving me? Um, that type of way of like seeing the emotion, or that experience, is something that, yeah, probably it's very common. Is, I think, one of the bigger realizations I've had. Like, I've gotten really into, that, like, real love, those books. And I mean, they're really great. And I yeah, it shaped my perspective on, oh my God, I've never been loved. Like, I've never really been like unconditionally loved. My parents really care for me. They did the best they can. No, no shade, no nothing, no hard feelings toward them. But sometimes, when I did something to annoy them, they showed disappointment or anger. And then, you know, in those slight instances, right, like here and there, it would be, actually really damaging. Say my, inconvenience, I'm an inconvenience to my parents. I make them angry. And if those types of emotions really can hurt a child, because a child is so narcissistic, takes everything so personally. Yeah. I mean, that's just how children are. They're just sponges, they absorb everything. You know, they're, selfish, but in the way that it's just because they're just taking everything in. And so as a child, it's very easy to, take something that's like, oh, this is my fault, and yeah, that was something that I had to learn in myself too. Um, so I mean, High Noon's like, this is the place to practice, like all these like things that I learned, and then I learned a lot of different things, like from real love. There's also like some books that I read. Yeah, I want to just shout out a couple. Like, there's like a I wouldn't say like a documentary type film called The Wisdom of Trauma, and that opened up a whole avenue for me to learn about, how like a childhood experience is traumatic, the way it's taken, and it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience, but even a lack of a loving experience can be traumatic. And that, yeah, I mean, that'll open up a whole another avenue of like learning about myself, and recognizing that, like, it's just a whole lot of hurt. And, people take things in different ways, and, depending on, some really unhealthy experiences. I think the biggest thing that I learned about myself was just like I really need to be loved like unconditionally. And the only way to do that is to show ev everything of myself, not just a mask that makes me look like a very capable, very good guy, but something that, I'm really like all my fears and my insecurities and the things that I'm ashamed to admit about the things that I do. Once I opened that door, it became so much easier to feel, every part of me is being loved, not just the good parts that I'm almost manipulating people to see, you know. And that's not real love. Anyway, those are all concepts that I learned in Real Love or The Wisdom of Trauma or the other, books that I've read. But High Noon gives me a group to practice it, to share everything, and everyone goes, "Thank you, thanks for sharing. That was very honest." I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm still welcome here."
Thank you. Yeah, that's almost like a deep dive into lessons learned from real love or
No,
wisdom of trauma, and so many resources out there. Yeah.
oh,
Okay. Yeah. To I guess thank you for sharing so far. And to wrap up, where do you think where do you find yourself now? And after having gone through multiple cycles of ascend and having been part of Heinun for so long, and
yeah.
now you've been a facilitator for multiple cycles, and helping out and staffing on Heinun workshops yourself. Um, where do you see yourself at after having gone through the program multiple times, right?
I mean, it's just continual growth. I feel like growth doesn't end, like I think that defeats the purpose of like, wanting to be better and feeling more and more joy and love. So yeah, in that way, I think we're greedy. We want more love, we want to experience greater and bigger love, and the moment we feel like we want to stop, I think. So yeah, I mean, I see myself now, it's like this is a place where like, you know, it just adds to my life, being able to share about these things and more the people that I share with and yeah, like having mentors, who are really close by and then having people to talk to, through the groups and the calls. I find myself in a really good place. That doesn't say like, things are exactly where I want them to be, you know. Like after a pretty long streak, however I want to, however much I want to give value to that. I actually had a relapse, and it's something that, could have destroyed me before. Like, what is happening, and then brought me so much, and it could have brought me so much shame to the point where I'm disappeared, like I want to run away again. But no, I confronted it right away. So this is something that happened. I really, like what was the thing that was really like what was the thing I was ignoring, running away from, you know? Um and yeah, at this point it's like I don't want to relapse or a slip to make me realize that there's something wrong in my life or something that I'm ignoring, And I want to yeah, at the point like yeah, I have to take care of it, right away. Like I want to be aware enough to the point where I don't, have to mess up or not mess up. But I don't have to go to these things and then, feel bad about it and then recognize it. I want to recognize it beforehand, like, oh, I'm feeling really like tempted today. Like, you know, what am I ignoring? What's the deep emotion that I'm ignoring right now? What am I hiding? So yeah, that's like the point where I'm at. Yeah. Like really learning how to be preventative, I think for a while I was kind of, you know, shutting out the emotion that I wasn't confronting, and yeah, insecurities or fears or worries for the future. Got a lot of those. So yeah, that's the point where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Seiji, for sharing, your experience and your insights from the last couple of years. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you would like to share with anyone who's considering whether or not to join the program, um, or anything else?
Yeah. Just do it. And I think Yeah, I mean, if there's a bad habit or if there's a lifestyle that you want to live, better, right? And just think like, has your lifestyle, like actually, like how has it served you? And it's like, has it really worked? It's like some people can justify, like every action can be explained, but that doesn't mean we justify everything. Really, like the ultimate goal in our life is to be happy. And if there's anything that takes you away from that, that's not good. Anything that brings you more joy is good. Like I think that's it's as simple as that.
Mm.
So, right. In my own life, porn, after watching it, I've never felt like, yeah, let's go. This is the best. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna, like I just felt, like never ever have I felt like that. I always felt less happy, less fulfilled. It's
Mm.
not something I want in my life. And hiding my emotions and feeling ashamed and, feeling like pushing down, and that doesn't make me feel happier or more connected to anybody. It's never really worked, you know. Might be easier in the short term, but definitely very damaging in the long term. So yeah, I want to encourage everybody, like, if not high noon, find a group, find some people to share and talk to, get connected. I think that's really important. It's really interesting how the most connected age we have with internet, this most lonely time of people's lives. I remember in my childhood, I used to just walk into my friend's house, and it's like, hey, and then we would just play for all day. And it's
Mm.
like now I feel like I don't really see that anymore.
In Japan, yeah, coming back to that state of just being able to feel free, right? Feel free and connect with people around us. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And thanks everyone for listening again. And we'll see you next time for another testimony.